You feel that Senator Okunromu report was a bit faulty?
It was faulty.
What are the areas that you discovered?
Because the kind of they were recommending that we should go and hold elections on the basis of federal constituencies, which are not representatives, which are too lopsided, which are just military creations, which are some of the reasons why we are even calling for a conference. And so that clearly was not in tandem. And in fact, when you read the entire report, it's as if they neglected the submissions made to them by the various groups. They just used the opinion of their members to write a report to advise the president. So, and that's why so many groups came out and said that the president should go back to the raw submissions that were made to this panel. And I think at some point the committee was recalled by the presidency, and before they came out with these modalities. The modality we have now may not be the most ideal, but I think it's an improvement on what you complained about, and there's an improvement on what we have had in the past, to the extent to which the stakeholders have been asked now to go and nominate their own delegate to this conference. In fact, given the nature of the electoral process in this country today, the kind of elections we have had will not even allow the quality of representation that these stakeholders are going to bring up on their own by nominating their members directly.
Okay, before we go into the issues of representation, I just want us to take a broad look at the report of the committee and the stance of the federal government. I mean, if the intentions are really, really worth the while of Nigerian people. Well, let me go to you, Barrister Goddy Nwazuruike. You are a legal practitioner, and you represent a group that has been very vocal about this issue of national conference. Tell us, from what we heard from the SGF, that even these the national conference is supposed even to provide a legal framework. From the stance of the federal government on the modalities and the report of the Okunromu-led committee report, what exactly are your views?
You know, the basis for the whole of that conference was the dissatisfaction of the various peoples based on who they are on the state of affairs. Over time, there has been complaint from Group A to Group B to Group C. And before you know it, the sing-song has been national conference, sovereign conference, everything. That conference was seen as the magic wand. Now that the Okunromu panel has given its own report on what it believed, problem, the federal government also, as a sovereign government, will take what it wants and present to the people. And now look at the beauty of it all, is that whatever the Okunromu panel said, whatever the federal government believes, will be of no importance except on one thing: indivisibility of Nigeria. Every other topic, we are free. In other words, all discussions are on the table. If you want us to say no more House of Reps, it's for us to say. We want us to go back to parliamentary system, it is for us to say. We want the states to be merged, to be increased. These are all open for discussions. You don't want the military to exist anymore, it's for you. Now you realize that discomfort among ethnic groups will always be there. Mistrust and this mutual suspicion. In almost every country today. Britain today, you hear of the Scottish Parliament talking about moving away. Yet it is part of that country called the Great Britain. The Wales are not bothered because they're almost extinct, but they're there. All of Northern Ireland is still part of Great Britain. From time to time, you hear Adams coming to say, I will not take an oath of allegiance, any oath of allegiance to the Queen. So, national conference is a way of stimulating those hidden discussions. Those things you heard about you, about me, bring them in the open. Quite often there are misconceptions.
Mr. Odumakin point out some things that were in the Okunromu-led committee report, and those things that the FG actually took away from the Okunromu report, and those things that they left out. Do you think that there are some things that are important that the FG has left out in Okunromu's report?
Well, I really don't know what is so important to them that they will leave out. But remember, the Nkrumah panel always gave alternatives. They will suggest A, alternative, they will put this and that. But like I said, whatever they left, whatever they added, will no longer be relevant because the directive is discuss anything except indivisibility. And as long as they're able to do that, the panel has just gone on mere modalities, which is what they were brought in to do. In other words, how do the delegates come out? You were talking of legal framework. Yes, the presidency, you know, it has all kinds of powers. Under the powers of the president, consultation of the people is always in the Constitution. Part of the funding for that will also come from those inherent powers of the president to have security votes. It enables him to consult on a variety of issues. Yes, the National Assembly has all kinds of powers to make laws, but also the president has his own powers. As long as he's exercising within that presidential vision of doing things, the presidential horizon, no problem.
All right. Mr. Yerima Shettima, from all of this that is on ground, the committee actually suggested that the national conference should be held between February and July, considering a lot of issues. But there seems to be some form of adherence. The committee actually said there should be no-go areas, where the AG said, well, there won't be any no-go areas, but one no-go areas. So what's your stand on this particular? We're still looking at Okonwo's report versus FG's modalities released on the 30th.
Yeah, one I commend the government in the first place to even agree that there is need for Nigerians to sit down and discuss, and that's the most important thing, no matter how it is, because I have been part of this advocacy for over a decade. That's the way Nigeria is going. I think we need to sit down and talk. However it is, and I remember vividly in 2005, Obasanjo organized one Bruhaha conference, side by side with that of Pronaco conference, which I was fully involved in that of the Pronaco conference as parallel to that of the government conference. I know it took us over a year and so, like 6 months to come up with a draft constitution for Nigeria. As I speak with you, we are still in high courts. And that case never see a light of the day for over 7 years today, challenging the existence of this so-called 1999 constitution. However, the most important is that we have a conference, and we are going for a conference. Nigerians at this time, I think my advice to Nigerians is for them to take the whole processes of the whole conference, take advantage of this conference. Yes, we might not expect that this conference will be the entire solution to Nigerian problems, but at least we should be able to move from one level to another level, and that's what I'm thinking about now. I have little shortcoming from the presentation on the part of the government, where I've not heard anybody talking about this issue of what will be the total direction of the conference after the conference. Where are we going? Are we going to National Assembly? Yes, Mr. President recently, I think not quite 1 month or so, came out to tell Nigerians that whatever is the outcome of the conference will go to National Assembly. With the class of people I see in the National Assembly today, I do not think anything good will come out of it. But most importantly is that we're going to go to the conference, and we are going to be the watchdog of this whole process to ensure that we direct and redirect those delegates and tell them exactly how you should go. But I think the government have also the right to determine how they want it to go, because we can't bring people and tell them what to do. I agreed in totality that the issue of unity of this country is not negotiable.